Alrighty, a very happy Thursday, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today it is April 23rd of 2026, and it is a big day for the world of sports as we get ready for the NFL draft set to take place this evening. We'll get you all the information and what you need to know heading into the draft. We'll have a little bit of a conversation about what we are expecting, what the Bengals may be expecting. They picked up Dexter Lawrence over the weekend, and this is kind of our first take getting into it. Before we get started with today's conversations, I want to thank everyone for wishing me a happy birthday. Turned 31 here today. So thank you for everyone who has posted and sent me birthday wishes on social media, who's messaged me privately. Um, you know, I woke up this morning and I just felt, and I know this is kind of maybe sound a little bit more humbling to say, but I just feel that my birthday does not belong to me. For those who have followed my journey over the past year, it's been very faith based, reconnected with uh, my faith in the journey. And I just celebrating this day doesn't solely reflect me, my accomplishments. Sure, I have paved my journey over the last several years, but it's about giving credit to where credit's due. And I go back 31 years ago, and the credit where credit's due starts with my parents. They conceived me, they nourished me in the womb for 9 months. They my mom gave birth to me. My parents raised me and guided me and teached me and gave me the layout of what it would be to be a person, an adult into society in hopes that I'd make the right choices, the right decisions. And then reconnected with my faith, none of this would be possible without God. I wouldn't be here and going down my correct path without our Savior Jesus Christ. And I'm not making this a political or religious point of view. I'm just saying that my journey over the last year, I have come to open up and realize that my birthday does not just resemble the things that I've done over the past 31 years. The fact that I made right choices to still be here and I can celebrate that. But the glory doesn't go to me. The glory goes to my parents who have showed me ways to be. If it wasn't for them, who knows where I would be. Go to my wife, who we work tangentially together. If it wasn't for our relationship, who knows what type of decisions I would be at today. To God, to Jesus Christ, to my faith, who has pointed and instructed, guided me in the way to live, to prosper, to stay humble, to stay generous to people. So when I reflect on my day, I take no credit. I have been guided and pulled and manipulated in multiple directions throughout my life. But the only one that I woke up and I saw this thing, look, I only have one job to do, and that's to follow him, and the rest takes care of itself. So, but I do want to thank everyone today. It's been a wonderful day. My wife has been amazing honoring my day. I am one who does not necessarily like the attention or like the to do things. I don't need gifts. I don't need to be pampered and whatnot. I don't need special treatment on my day. If at all, what I really want on on a birthday that resembles me, the day that I came into this earth, is just peace, things to go smoothly, people to be in a good mood, to be peaceful among each other, to give back to each other. And, I know we should live our lives daily on that, but these are moments just like Resurrection Day, just like, the birth of Christ in December. This is a moment where I just, no anger, no hatred, no fear, just rejoice in the celebration of life. So, uh, for those who don't know, well, you know now, 31 years old, and um, it's just this. It's for me, it's the simple things in life. Tonight, my wife and kids are gonna bake a cake. That's all I need. Don't need anything else. I'm not really a big cake person. So, thank you for all the wishes, though, and more to come here today. Well, the NFL draft is a big deal. Matter of fact, the NFL draft is one of the biggest, if not the biggest draft compared to all the other sports. And it usually marks and resembles the fresh start, the new start to a new season of the NFL. And sure, the NFL official new season started a month ago. But everyone's bypassed all the free agency. That was just a stepping stone. Fans, organizations, people around the world that love football come together to this one spot bigger than baseball, bigger than basketball, bigger than hockey. And it's a big party to see what the team does. And based off of their decisions, can determine if a team has what it takes to make it to the playoffs. It's an equal opportunity for teams who didn't play well last year, whether they intentionally tank, whether they just nothing went their way. It's their opportunity to start over. They start high up as they get the first set of drafts, pick selections in the overall draft. And the NFL draft is not just one day; it's a whole weekend of full rounds, events. People get nervous, and it's for also players to say, "Hey, my work that I've put into my blood, tears, and sweat over the past, high school years, college years are gonna pay off." For the Raiders, they get the chance to take the best of the best in college football this evening, and they get a gamble whether or not he's going to be the next big thing in the NFL. We've seen players drafted number 1 overall who's done nothing, and we found them out of the league within 3 years. We've seen others who are drafted the very end, 199, and yet they have made a legacy worth of a Hall of Fame career. The point I'm trying to make is that on this special day, this is the reason why I don't do mock drafts, because great. It's great to look at what we could get. Are we really going to get these players? And on top of that, and I say a lot of this reference to baseball, but in football and any other draft, it works the same way. You honestly do not know, and you do not have a crystal ball to tell me whether or not the next person that you select is going to be good enough. You can't, no matter, college football, college sports is different than the professional. Just because you are a household name, just because you won the Heisman Trophy and you made some, maybe broke a new record, led the league in some sort of statistics, does not guarantee you anything in the NFL. You start from scratch, you are a nobody. And an NFL team is only gambling off of what they see. No promises that you're going to turn out to be somebody special. And that's why I don't necessarily get too hyped up to what the NFL mock drafts say. Because things change all the time. 2 weeks ago, the Cincinnati Bengals kept throwing out guys like Caleb Downs. And sure, I like Caleb Downs. I think Caleb Downs is a great player, and I think any team who is to have this safety is going to be in for a nice run in the defensive back. But just as we saw last weekend, the Bengals traded their 10th overall pick for Dexter Lawrence. We'll talk about him in a minute. But that has led to now the Bengals being out of the draft in the first overall round. As a matter of fact, the Bengals here don't have 2 rounds to select from. It's kind of awkward. We don't necessarily see this a lot from the Bengals. They're not going to be in the first round, and they're not going to be in the 5th round. Remember, the 5th round was given to the Cleveland Browns, who we got Joe Flacco. And so we'll have a pick in the 2nd round, pick number 41. That's our very first pick. We'll have a pick in the 3rd round at 72, 4th round in 110. 6th round, we'll have 2 picks, one in 189 and one in 199. And then the 7th round, we'll have a pick 121 and 226. And, at pick 226, that could be our next biggest thing. Any number of those. A team gambles on your talent in college. They don't know what you're capable of doing until you really get out there during preseason. They don't know what you're really going to put out there on the field until we get into game time. You are going to sink or you are going to swim. That's just the bottom line. Because in the NFL, they don't have a minor league system. In the NFL, you are expected from the NFL draft to rise, to jump up to the top, and to start on day one. So the draft this weekend begins tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on ABC, ESPN, and the NFL Network. Matter of fact, I posted about this earlier this morning. Let me get to the page so I can give you the information that I posted about. So it is a 3-night event, tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday. It's going to be held in Pittsburgh. Tonight starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The 2nd and 3rd rounds will take place tomorrow, April 24th at 7 p.m. And the 4th through 7th rounds will also take place on Saturday, April 25th at high noon. The coverage is available on ESPN, ABC, and the NFL Network. The first round, each team will receive 10 minutes to make their selection. The 2nd round, each team will receive 7 minutes to make their selection. The 3rd through the 6th round will receive 5 minutes. And then the 7th round should receive 4 minutes to make their selection. Okay. Here's what that NFL draft in the first round looks like here heading into the night. And this is all subject to change as we head into the draft in a couple hours. Las Vegas Raiders will get the number 1 pick. The New York Jets, number 2. Number 3 is the Arizona Cardinals. The Tennessee Titans is the number 4. The New York Giants is the number 5. The Cleveland Browns is the number 6. Washington Commanders, number 7. The New Orleans Saints are the number 8. The Kansas City Chiefs are number 9. And the New York Giants are again at number 10. I'm going to leave the rest for you. You can read it on the TNC Sports Talk Facebook page, or you can head over to NFL.com where they provide all the information you need. Here's the top 10 prospects that we're looking forward to being drafted early on. We have Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback from Indiana. Ruben Bain Jr., the edge from Miami. Arvil Reese, the edge from Ohio State. Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle from Alabama. Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle from Utah. Jamad McCoy, the cornerback from Tennessee. Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame. Caleb Downs, safety from Ohio State. Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State. Avion Terrell, the cornerback from Clemson. That's just a piece of the puzzle, piece of the pie there. So teams are going to risk betting on you. Get higher up, you get better pay. I think that comes with a lot more pressure to perform at that level. There's no doubt that Mendoza deserves to be number 1 overall. And I actually feel sorry for Mendoza because the Las Vegas Raiders really were terrible last year. If I went off of last year's stats only, I'm telling myself, what do they have to offer Mendoza to solidify him in at the pro level? I feel like it's just unjust. So the Cincinnati Bengals, where do they lie in the NFL draft? What do they need to get? What do they need to capture heading into this year's draft? And I know it sounds redundant to say, to proclaim, but I feel like the Bengals still need as much attention as they can on the defensive side. Does that mean that they don't draft any offense? No, I think you still need to, you know, adding depth in your receiver position, especially after you losing Jermaine Burton last year in the midst of last year. Picking up another running back could always be beneficial. Picking up another tight end or a couple different linemen would definitely be utilized. We have 7 options, 7 selections to pick this year. One of them or 2 of them could be afforded to go offensively as depth that we can use. But I still early on, it would be pronounced not to go after somebody on the defensive side, a linebacker, a safety, a cornerback. Linebacker and cornerback are my 2 top spots. Now, you could tell a lot from a draft pick. You tell a lot what the organization thinks that they need to improve on, where they're confident in, and where they think that they're going to struggle. Who they pick is also a big factor in, well, what does the how much do we believe in that talent, whether they're good or bad? It also is an opportunity to expose a team at their weakness because we're revealing just who and their thought process. If they don't pick a defensive player tomorrow, when they will actually get their first selections, they will run into, we will know that they feel like they're confident at the defensive position, that there's nobody at that moment that is worthy enough to be selected, and then that they feel like they need to work on their offense. It's a lot to take in. And so, yes, I will be watching tonight, bits and pieces, taking a look at it. We'll share a little bit of that tomorrow heading into the weekend. Yes, I will be paying attention to the first draft, but I really will just sit back, wait until all the drafts are set over the weekend, and we will really break it down Monday and if not next week for you guys. Which leads me into this question, to be honest. The Cincinnati Bengals traded the 10th overall pick for Dexter Lawrence with the New York Giants. Was that the right selection to make? And I asked the question on our Facebook page. Feel free to head over there and comment. I love to hear what you guys have to say. Open up that conversation. Obviously, the Bengals are still adding to their defense. They feel like Dexter Lawrence is a good fit, not just for their defense, but for their scheme play, and then that he will play a major factor into the role of the defensive improving and to building. They also feel that there is not anyone that they feel that they can tie along to if option 1, 2, or 3 doesn't fall their way because they get drafted earlier on in the night. They feel like when they get down to their pick, they are not going to be able to have any options that's worthy enough as the 10th overall. So what do? They decided to trade to get the third, who was once said the third best defensive pass rusher in the NFL in Dexter Lawrence. And I think it's a bold and it's a big statement. So instead of, maybe you could call this the safe part, but instead of taking a risk on somebody that it was not initially on your list, that's not, you don't think is valued at the 10th overall pick, instead of having to pay that someone, pay somebody that you already know what's capable of on and off the field. maybe a change of scenery can catapult and getting him back to the way to the player he was just 2 to 3 years ago. Let's admit that he wasn't the player that he once was. He wasn't that third best defensive lineman that people wanted to play for. Remember, the Giants picked him up for the player that he once was, and obviously he didn't perform. There's indications that he wanted out of New York, and we're kind of getting all of this. And the fact that he chose to go with the Cincinnati Bengals, who desperately struggled and desperately need help, maybe shines a new light. He's going to be a star along the line with a lot of these other linemen, Shamar Stewart, BJ Hill, and you know, it's only going to hopefully help become a dangerous defensive line heading into this upcoming season. I feel like it's that cliche statement when it comes down to the NFL, and it states this: it starts at the line. Who beats the ball at the line? Can you stop the run at the line? Because when you go into secondary or even third dare, the backfield, if you can break through the line, then the field is yours to run with. So the Bengals have done their due diligence in stacking up a team that is a defensive line that is going to provide pressure to the quarterback. They're not doing it in one person and Trey Hendrickson. They're doing it in multiples by picking up 2 to 3 people, saying, look, all right, now we're into our draft. We don't need it. We could cross that off our list. What else do we need? Cornerbacks, linebackers. All right, what's available? Now we're looking into the second round. Maybe we have a better chance. After the draft, we're going to realize, well, what we have, reanalyze it, and say, all right, what are we good heading into preseason with the team that we have, the players we have, or do we need additional players this spring? We will know a lot of that, but the NFL draft is tonight. Stay tuned. We will provide coverage over tomorrow, and we will provide coverage on our social media pages. Stay connected. Stay tied up. I think that Dexter Lawrence was the right choice. As much as I hear, oh, we're going to tie along 2 guys out of the top 10 selections, okay, that we chose that I mentioned here. Fernando Mendoza is one of them. Ruben Bain Jr. is another one, but you figure that he's going to go high up. Offensive tackle Proctor would be a good one. I question if he's going to be available. Jamon McCoy is another good one, but we question his injury prone with Tennessee. Caleb Downs, I circled 3 times on that list. But I feel like all of them are going to be drafted up. So, sure, we're going to see if this safe card pays off for the Bengals. I'm also going to be curious if we get to the draft night tonight, and if one of our top guys that we have used in the mock draft to emphasize, hey, we could collect them at 10, if they drop down lower. So is Caleb Downs below 10 or above 10? Is Proctor below or above 10? Is Bain below or above 10? And then we're going to play, well, the what if. What if we had them? Had that offer? I think the Giants, honestly, took a win. You had someone who was not happy in your organization, so what do? You say, all right, let's find you something. Let's come get something out of it. And you got 2 draft picks in the first round, first 10 picks, to pick not 1, but 2 people to help support John Harbaugh and his new coaching team. So we'll see. NFL draft coming up later tonight. Cincinnati Bengals did not get the sweep in Tampa Bay. They dropped to the Rays 6-1 final score. They did take the series 2 out of 3 on the road. They wrapped up a 6-game road stands where they won 5 of the 6 games. I call that a win. They won 4 of the 7 or 5 of the 7 the last time. And so they are now 9-3 or 9-3 on the road. If you told me that the Cincinnati Reds are going to finish off the month of April because the rest of the games are at home with the road stands at 9-3, I would have told you that you were crazy, and that would be something challenging. How did you think the Reds did on the road trip, on the road stands? What about the 9 games overall? If you think over the last 9 games, the Reds 7-3. Not 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 7. 1, 2. They're 7-2. They are 7-3 over the last 10 games. Headed back home. I say that's pretty impressive. I like it. The bats are swinging. We were able to score more runs over the last. Something heading into this road trip. We were saying the Reds needed to score more runs. We needed to get out of just scoring in 2, 3, 4 runs. Well, Saturday we put up 5. Sunday we put up 7. 6 on Monday. 12 on Tuesday. And sure, you have those games where when you lose, and we lost by 5. So how did the Reds do? The Reds won. Matter of fact, over the last 10 games, let's calculate it. 6, 8, 16, 18 plus 5 is 23. 23 to 30, 36, 48, 49 runs they scored compared to the 39. Let me jot that down. 39 compared to the 9, 10, 13, 16, 17 plus 4 is 21, 25, 26. 26 plus 6 is 32. 32 plus 6 is 38. 49 to 38 over the last 10 games. It runs. That's 11 run differential that we're in the positives. So the bats have been flying. Runs have been scoring. It's something that we have projected early on becoming an issue. Not so much of an issue. I'll take that. The Reds still sit in first place. You go to Major League Baseball here. They still sit above the Cubs that are at 15. They're half a game back. The Cubs are on a nice, good 8-game winning streak. We are now just 2 games or 2 runs between the differential. So we're looking for that to continue to improve. We are 12-13 against with teams with winning records. We are now 10-3 at home. We are 6-6, or 10-3 on the road, 6-6 at home. So we have the today off. We're heading into a 3-game series, which is going to be a very special week. And I say that because we have the Hall of Fame ceremony coming up tomorrow. We could talk about that tomorrow on Saturday. We'll have post-game fireworks on Friday, Hall of Fame on Saturday, kids run the bases on Sunday. We'll have Monday off. We'll have a 3-game series to end the month of April as the Rockies come into town, and then we head back on the road. As a matter of fact, I think we go to Pittsburgh to begin a 3-game series. Yeah, Pittsburgh and Chicago. It's going to be a stretch that includes Houston before our next day off. So that's what, another 10 games, 11 games in a row. Yeah, 10 games before we have next day off. Well, that's going to be another kind of gripe to the series. So far, it's been a stretch of when we've had our stretches, it's been road games, majority of it before the home games. So what I mean by that is that we had a 10-game stretch at the beginning of April that consisted of 3 on the road with the Texas Rangers, 4 on the road against the Miami Marlins, and then we came back home against the Angels. So we spent 7 of the 10 games on the road, which could be a challenge. And trust me, it was because we did drop the series. It didn't play so well at the back of it. Then we began a 9-game stretch where we saw 2 of the 3 series on the road before to get a day off. Now we'll have a 3-game series before a day off. We'll have 3 games, and it's going to be a lot more than that. So we have 3 games at home, 7 games on the road before 3 games at home before another day off. So we're playing in these stretches, we are playing more road games than we are playing home games. The only thing that I take away from this is that we've had a day off to travel to Arlington with a time difference, I think it's like 2 hours. We had a getaway day before traveling back an hour for Minnesota. Then we traveled back to current time with Tampa Bay. We'll have a getaway day. We'll stay on the East Coast in the sense we'll have 3 games up in Pittsburgh, move over 1 hour back to the Cubs before coming back home. We haven't had any deep travels this season that has conflicted the time frame that we are in. And what the good thing is about it is that we're able right now to come off of winning ways, to have winning series because of that, and take advantage of our time differences to be able to have ourselves the season we have started off with. When you get down to June, one thing that has hurt the Padres, or not the Padres, but the Reds in the past, we'll in June, we'll be going to St. Louis, which is an hour back, and then we'll start a 3-game series 2 hours back on in San Diego. So we'll have to adjust to that time before getting a day off coming back home. And that's our first official time we see us going out to the East Coast. And it troubles me because, it nails it. I know everyone has to do it, but really, when the schedule doesn't work in that favor. See, in July, coming off the All-Star break, we'll begin the 3-game series in Colorado. Then we move up, which is an hour difference, and then we move up to Seattle, which is not going to hurt us too bad because we'll come off of a couple of days rest after the All-Star break. But we're not going back out to the West Coast. We're not really affected by that until the end of August. Just looking ahead, so will we have to go to Arizona after a 4-game series against the Cardinals in August? That also matches and pairs with the Giants. And let's not forget, we don't see the Dodgers on the road until September, which is our last West Coast trip or even Midwest. So the point I'm trying to make is that early on, taking advantage of these series on the road where traveling is not an issue, we're not affected by the travel time, has really been good. Like I said, on the road, we have performed very well, which is a good sign. I think we'll need that heading into next weekends when we begin the trip out to Pittsburgh. But now we need to bring that back home to Detroit, to take on Detroit and to take on Colorado. Right now, Detroit is not playing good. It is playing, just finally got back up to some good baseball. They're 13-12. Where it's a really big series. They won the American League Central last season. They went to the playoffs. They performed well in the playoffs. They didn't make it to the World Series, but they are a projected team that has the expectations and the anticipation of winning the division again. 13-12. They match the best record that are the worst record we have in the NL Central in the Milwaukee Brewers. The Colorado Rockies are 10-15. This is with the day off, these are series that, as competitive as coming into the weekend, knowing that this is a weekend series that celebrates the Hall of Fames. Brandon, Phillips, which is going to be a big conversation we have tomorrow. Importance of winning again. But what about the Colorado Rockies? Those are just as big of an importance to win. So enjoy the day off. Let's take a look real quick what's going around Major League Baseball here with the other teams. We look at today's game. No game starts until 1 o'clock today, which is good. Milwaukee is in Detroit wrapping up that series. Detroit traveling on the road, so that will take an effect. The Cubs finished their 4-game series against Philadelphia. Um, that's today at 2:20. And then that's pretty much it. Pittsburgh actually also wraps up their series against Texas and Arlington today, later on today. There's a total of 9 games being played. First game starting at 1 o'clock. The last game will be starting at 8 o'clock, so spread out throughout the day. So I had my brother sent me some information heading into yesterday. San Diego Padres make some groundbreaking news in Major League Baseball. They signed Lucas Giolito to a 1-year deal. And it's kind of gotten me, it's kind of interesting of how they have put this together. But the Padres have really added depth to the rotation. I don't think any ball club can go wrong with adding depth to the rotation, to their bullpen. The more the merrier, matter of fact. The baseball is built around pitching. Giolito, he is a game changer when it comes down to someone's rotation. Now, Giolito is not going to come in and be this ace pitcher if he went to the Colorado Rockies, so to say, he would be at. But he is someone who can, provide depth for the Padres as they deal with any injuries, as people hit slumps, and kind of help push them into the postseason. Right? They are in competition with the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's full swing. It's a clear indication that, look, it starts March 26th. The Dodgers may sit here and claim, all right, we really don't have to be as serious until what? No, until July. To be honest, we're going to win some, we're going to lose some. But if you're any other team in the National League West, you have to be full force, everybody on their A game back in spring training. Because the challenge ahead is the dangerous Dodgers. And it's not enough to settle for a wild card position. Padres are on full swing. They're 16-8. And in the midst, they got Mason Miller on a crazy performance level. And in the midst of all of this, the Padres just sold their team to new ownership. And I was talking to my brother at length this morning and, just about Lucas Giolito. I was telling him, look, I think this is a good deal. What does that mean? I mean, I think he's a versatile pitcher. I think he creates a lot to help this organization. And I think he's also a chip for what's to come. And I think when you have depth for the rotation, you could either send someone to the bullpen to help and cut out innings, pitch multiple innings, and coming off the bullpen. That's a whole nother game. But it's another thing too to be able to now, when you head into June and July, yeah, you have someone to cover for injuries. But if everyone's healthy, you have an option to, hey, who can we trade? He's valuable. Who can we trade him for that can help us offensively or defensively? And so a guy like Lucas Giolito has multiple options when it comes down to the Reds organization. He has almost is also the Padres have multiple options now when it comes down to saying, look, anyone else that's not going to perform, whether it's Waldron, whether it's what's going on with Musgrove coming back, whether it's Pavetta or whatever the case may be, you know, maybe we send you down, maybe we trade you, maybe we release you. Those tough decisions, these are good problems to face, good problems to have. And I was telling them, like, look, the Padres don't need to rush him. The Padres are not in a rush to bring him up. They'll start down in Lake Elsinore, but it'd be nice to be able to bring. And I think he has so many days before he has to get called up. The Padres have a couple weeks, but the Padres are in full force now. The conversation went depth into this about the ownership. Well, what is the next move? Got into, well, Paul Skeens becoming a free agent. Do you see the Padres signing up Paul Skeens? Well, to me, when I look at the Padres, and I remember back in San Diego, we signed Tatis, we signed Machado. We have secured our future with the organization. We had two, not one, but two guys we could build our offense and defense around. Adding guys like Musgrove, locking him up is now we're adding to our now we built this one person around the rotation, and Mason Miller is our closer, and that can now lead, hey, what do we build around him in our bullpen? What the sense is that that's been a couple years conversation. Padres since then have won games, have made it to the playoffs, and has been a force to be reckoned with in the National League. As a matter of fact, they've really put the Dodgers and give them a run for their money. And that's great when you can finally see a team that puts the Dodgers to the test because they've been this unstoppable force. But now it's not just about, well, what keeps the Padres alive now. It's about investing into your future. And one thing that the Padres have done, is they have flatlined, blacklisted this, is they have had to give up a lot of prospects. They had to give up a lot of their farm team of system in order to get some of these top-notch players. Juan Soto, who even not even on the team anymore, Xander Bogaerts, and so on and so forth. Now there is a transition. You have new ownership. We really don't quite know. We're not going to know for a while what this new ownership's direction is going to be. We hope that as a Padre fan, you want them to continue thriving. But now we're kind of stuck in a conundrum also. We don't have a farm system that has homegrown talent that is at the same level that can be developed and be ready to go in the next 2 to 3 years. Maybe one out of the bunch is going to be breaking through. But realistically, we don't have the team that we had down in the minors like we used to. The depth is not there. Okay, we banked in on MLB ready talent, and that's all we had. So, and we're not the Dodgers. We don't have the best farm developmental team that can shape up even the worst guy on the planet. So, how does the Padres approach? Well, talk about this. You use Lucas Giolito, for example, as a blue chip, someone who can possibly get some prospects out during the trade season. And I'm using him as a reference. I'm not saying they signed him so they could get rid of him. No. But then that goes across the board. I think the Padres start organizing that because the last thing the Padres want to do, which I would agree on, is like to repeat the last 25 years. Last 25 years has been nothing but torment for the Padres time and time again. No matter what we brought in, no matter what we did, we were cursed of not being able to go to the playoffs. We were cursed of not being able to win ball games. And it's time now, once we got into the spotlight, it's time to stay in the spotlight. So the ownership is also going to be something we pay attention to as new ownership. What is their first moves? Is it to clean house? Or is it to make a big splash? And so there is that possibility of, if Screwball is a free agent, he gets to that point next season. How heavy could be the Padres be interested? How far are they willing to go? You take a look back at the Reds. I mean, you know, a guy like Screwball is great idea. And I'm not saying that we're even anywhere near conversations. We have our own direction. But just to fill in, just to be in someone's shoes for a moment to see if the Reds, what would they do if they were in the position as the Padres? new ownership playing good baseball, awaiting their first move, and then signing just players. I don't think there's a rhyme or reason of who they signed, why they signed them, this and that. The bottom line is they just signed people. They sign talent, they put them in the place, and they win, they lose, they lose. Alrighty. All right. NBA playoffs. Round one continues. Yesterday, we had some final scores as the Pistons came back to tie the series 98 to 83 against the Magics. The Oklahoma City Thunders also won their game against the Phoenix Suns 120 to 107. They have taken a 2-0 lead in the matchup. Today, there is three games on in the playoffs. All three of them will be available on Amazon Prime. Tonight's tip-off it begins at 7 p.m. with the first game against the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks, who are tied at one apiece. At 8 p.m., the Cleveland Cavaliers take on the Toronto Raptors, as the Cavaliers have taken a 2-0 lead in the series. And at 9:30, we'll see the Denver Nuggets taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves and the Nuggets are tied at one apiece. Is it too early to start locking in talent right now, locking your drafts? If you're the Raiders, wouldn't you want to go ahead and lock in Fernando Mendoza? If that's the quarterback that you are going to select, which it seems like you'd be shifting, you'd be like the Cleveland Browns in the draft day. By the way, I want to watch that today, considering the draft is. But wouldn't you want to have lock in? I mean, I wouldn't want to wait 10 whole minutes. If I'm the first 10 team, or if I'm the first three teams, I don't have one and two locked in, and I'm not sitting those tickets in within 2.5 minutes from our selection time. I'm questioning. I don't understand. I never have understood that. I understand when you get later in the rounds, deeper into the draft, when names get taken off of your board that you want to sign and you're interested in. I understand how things can be kind of difficult to make that decision, but you've had the last several months to analyze. You've had the NFL Combine to analyze. You've had, interviews and this and that. If you're in the top five, hell, even the top 10, you should have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, your top 10 players you want in the draft. You should go through every draft and say, if I want one to so and so, then I got plan B, I got plan C, I got plan D. And then if that's not the case, you know, you should be able to lock in. Your number one still goes. So the Raiders, for example, let's say they go after Fernando Mendoza. You should already be locking that in. It should be within minutes of the lock in. And maybe the NFL is playing this strategy that, and maybe the teams do lock it in right away. But I just don't understand early on taking full 10 minutes to lock in. Make that phone call prior. I don't know. Where is Caleb Downs going? Caleb Downs, I would like to see a Kansas City Chief. I think the Giants pick out either the running back or even an offensive tackle for one of them, or they pick up a defensive, maybe a cornerback or something like that. I still think that the Giants in this new position with John Harbaugh will have themselves a really good run. So here's interesting. I want to get to my final conversation of the day. Before I do that, couple things. AwfulAnnouncing.com reports That WrestleMania 42 has come and gone. Pat McAfee has said that he's no longer part of the WWE wrestling business after taking a starring role in the WWE Showcase event. And according to the top wrestling reporter Dave Meltzer, it was his decision. Pat McAfee is controversially inserted into the main event of between WWE champion Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Suddenly, the storyline shifted, puzzled fans, and they thoroughly rejected Pat McAfee's shocking heel turn in the ascension of the top of the card after serving a fan-friendly commentator for most of his WWE career. That WrestleMania 42, McAfee is seemingly written out of the story. He was splashed through the table by Jelly Roll before the match. Then during the match, Randy Orton turned on him and RKO'd him out of nowhere. And Pat McAfee then said thank you to wrestling business and gave his indication that he'd be done for WWE for good. According to Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer Radio, with the Pat McAfee thing, he opted out so that he can actually lead to everything changing. That's why the tag match from Backlash was taken off Orton and McAfee against Jelly Roll and Rhodes, with Rhodes may not be okay for Backlash anyway, with that eye. He goes on to say they were very contingent. I can't even pronounce that word. I don't even know what I'm speaking of what it has been about celebrities in wrestling, and both of them love wrestling. I think that they realized that there was a lot of negative sentiment about it, and they listened, and they understood. I think they saw the fan side of it, and I think that's what it led to this. He was told that it was a belief that it was due to the reaction that he pulled out and wasn't doing anything else. So, Pat McAfee, don't get me wrong. I like Pat McAfee. I love his show. I love what he has been involved in. He is the first sports program that has made national television on ESPN, on everywhere across the world, that has dedicated time and spots to professional wrestling, a place for interviews, a place for conversations and stories, and the transition that we're bringing a sport entertainment program to Sports Center. And I know there's controversy over this, but I appreciate that because I feel like professional wrestling doesn't get talked enough. And yes, we have our own wrestling podcast. We have our own, observers, but it doesn't make way on ESPN. And so whenever we see one of our WWE superstars or AEW superstars make television to promote an upcoming match or to promote an upcoming feud or an upcoming PLE, those are big moments because they are getting the star spotlight that football, that baseball, that basketball, and even hockey get. And so I feel like that all started with Pat McAfee, and that has grown since then with Pat McAfee. He also brought someone who was just a fan to the commentating stage, which brought a new, colorful dynamic to the industry, which we have never experienced before. Much appreciated. But yes, you are right. There is a separation that WWE has to have a fine line between having celebrities in, no celebrities, and how involved are they because they are not wrestlers. They are not out there day in and day out, putting their bodies on the line. So you have to distinctly separate them from what is the feud and what is celebrity input. And Jelly Roll and Pat McAfee was nothing more than a celebrity input. And from a feud that we loved to watch, that we wanted organic stuff to watch between Randy and Cody, we had a distraction with Jelly Roll and with Pat McAfee. And I'm glad that the WWE saw that as an issue, because what did they do to handle it? They knew they put themselves in an awkward position. So Jelly Roll took Pat McAfee out before the match even began. We were able now to focus on the match itself. But that wasn't it. We had to find a way to write Pat McAfee off. It wasn't just put you through the table, all said and done. We had the moment where we knocked out the ref. Pat McAfee tried to come down as a referee to count, still a kick out, in the spurse of things, an RKO, which takes you out anyways. I don't think so. I think what separated WrestleMania 42 match between Cody and Randy Orton from it being a good match to being a great match was Pat McAfee and Rhodes involved. Sure, it was fun to watch it, but you could have had that in a segment in between matches, just as entertaining. Matter of fact, made more sense. You could have had it before the match, before the entrances, backstage even, to the point where they are just taken away from ringside. And that's that. And the fact that Pat McAfee has put his ego aside, put his love for the industry aside to say, look, I need to step away. This is what they do. I cannot get involved. Although it sounds great, I'm not a professional wrestler. I need to stay in my lane. It took him out of it takes some balls to do it, to be honest. So I am happy that it, is glad his way. Now, what has elevated, so this wasn't a great match, but yet again, it was better than a good match. What it was that stood apart, that line right in between, was the fact that Randy Orton ambushed and it continued to attack Cody Rhodes after the fact. Now, it leads me to this indication. I'm just going to start this conversation. We'll pick it up tomorrow because of lack of time. But now we're kind of sitting at a crossroads with what's next for Cody Rhodes. We see Jacob Fatu, who was originally on SmackDown, who just beat Drew McIntyre. He is now confronting and going after Roman Reigns. Apparently, according to Dave Meltzer, there was reports that we could have saw Cody and Jelly Roll team up to take on Randy and McAfee at Backlash in May. Now we won't be seeing that. But on top of that, the guy who got punted on night one, the guy who really got beat up, who lost the war, came out on Raw and offered his hands wide open to CM Punk, saying, I'm here whenever you're ready. So we're keeping that in our back pocket. That's fine by me. But there was a lot of indication heading into out of night one of WrestleMania for what Randy Orton has done, clearly indicating me saying, hey, Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes is not done yet. Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes has a better story to tell. It takes it to the next level. And it's so fresh into people's mind and to my mind, I'm saying I need to see that at Backlash. So heading into Backlash, on May 9th, I'm almost predicting I want to see another match between Randy and Cody. Matter of fact, at this point, I want to see a stipulation because of how Randy ended off night one by punting Cody. So the point that I am trying to just proclaim is that there's multiple things that are moving around. There's an unclear direction. Hopefully we get some clarity heading into tomorrow night on SmackDown, but it creates a little bit of confusion. So the question I'm going to leave with you today, because the show's about to be done, is what's next for Cody Rhodes? What is next for between Cody and Randy Orton? Hell in a Cell match, Last Man Standing, I Quit match. What is the next steps to spruce this feud, and does it change titles and put titles in the hands of Randy Orton? That is all the time I have for you guys today. I want to appreciate everyone for tuning in. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. It means so much for me here if you guys support our channel. Want to, like I said, invite you to our social media pages. We're on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. We're also downloadable on our audio platforms at the TNC Sports Talk. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker. And we will be paying attention to the draft, so stay tuned. We'll be back again tomorrow to wrap up our week, get you guys ready for the weekend and the weekend sports to come. Thank you guys for tuning in to the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Bye.